everyone, I'm Jeremiah from the Flowerpot channel. You may know me as a musician, singer, songwriter, or that guy that plays all of the videos with all the instruments at the same time. And I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I make those videos? Yes, you can use your phone to some capacity to do what I'm trying to do, but to really do like the videos I make, you're gonna need a recording setup, a computer of some sort, and if you're just using your phone, you're not computer savvy, try the Acapella app. It might be an easy introductory way to kind of make multiple framed videos where you can edit yourself playing some tunes. But I'm going to walk you through my process, and let's go ahead and talk about the things that you're going to need. So, first thing you're going to need, a computer of some sort. This is just a cheap Acer laptop, and the mid-range laptops can work, although I use a gaming PC that I built. It is set up to do graphic design work, so it has a bunch of extra RAM and processing power to do all the video editing stuff that I need. I end up using a software like Premiere Pro, which is kind of a heavier lift of a software, and you're probably going to need the Adobe Creative Cloud to do that. Now, if you're not a designer and you're not purchasing the Adobe Creative Suite every month, there are free or very cheap alternatives to do so, and I highly recommend going that route before you buy Adobe Premiere Pro for yourself. The first great free alternative is DaVinci Resolve. This is a free software that will give you most of the options that you're going to need that Premiere Pro can offer. The next thing you're going to need is, of course, like microphones, mic stands, XLR cords, and interface. These are ways that you can record your instruments and put them into a digital software or into a digital interface, and then edit it around, mix it, apply the effects that you need, just like if you were to go to a studio. So let's talk a little bit about the equipment I use. Firstly, I'm going to be using some preamps, and I've just set up a lot of this stuff, but let's just talk about the bare minimums that you need. The way I record my instruments is with two microphones at the same time, so I can get stereo sound. It helps me get the deep tones that I'm really looking for in a lot of my music, but you don't really need that. You can just use one mic per instrument if you want, and it can be a Shure 58 if you want it to be. I really like the Lauten 220 for kind of like a surround mic. It's kind of like that mid-range price, and then I recently got SE 8s, which I've been using in a lot of my other videos, and they are really good for like guitar and mandolin. I'm even using them on bass and getting a lot of the sound that I really like, the punchiness in the bass. So yeah, SE 8s, great mics, but there's literally hundreds of mics on the market that can range from $50 to $5,000. So you just gotta find a mic that fits your budget and with the sound you like. There's tons of stuff on YouTube for you to look into for that. Next up, you're gonna need an interface. All this does is allows you to plug in your mics to an interface, and your interface to your computer. It usually connects via USB and allows you to have a new input section in your digital software so that it has basically little to no latency from your mics to your computer. This is the easiest way to do it without having a giant board or something like that. One of the ones I'm using now is the Audient, and this thing has been really great because it's low latency and it has some good web and digital options. I've had a lot of luck, and I recorded the most of my videos with the PreSonus Audiobox 2, so don't be scared to check that one out. It's small, compact, and a great entry-level interface. So for preamps, I'm using some API preamps in a Lunchbox. I like the 500 series. They're a little bit smaller, and in my small office here, they're great for that. And they really help me get the sound I want. So all I'm doing is running my mics into a preamp, and you can then run them into a compressor or something like that if you'd like, and then running them to the interface and my interface to the board. And then after you've got your computer set up, that is basically all of the hardware that you're going to need to get started. So next up, let's talk about software. I'll say that most of the music industry, especially the bluegrass music industry, either uses Pro Tools or Cubase. Both of these are relatively inexpensive softwares that you can buy and are great for general acoustic and audio mixing. There's a ton of software out there like FL Studios that are probably better for the digital mixing, but for acoustic mixing, I recommend one of those two. However, because I have the Adobe Creative Cloud, I use Adobe Audition, and it has all of the effects and settings and all the bells and whistles that you would want in something like Pro Tools or Cubase. It just has a little bit less of the plug-in compatibility that those softwares have. So if you go to a studio and you see them using Pro Tools or something like that, it's probably because they have this one really unique reverb plugin that they love, or a compressor that they love that they're using for vocals or something like that, and that's what they're sticking to. But really, you can use almost any audio software that allows multiple tracking, has the bass effects that you're going to want, like compressors, hard limiters, things like that, reverb effects. And yeah, Adobe Audition is what I use, so if you're looking, that's what I'm going to be using in today's tutorial. So let's hop on the computer and I'll go ahead and run you through an example of a video that I would do. To get started, we'd open a new project, and for my base settings, I typically leave them pretty normal depending on what hardware I'm using, but for now we're going to be going with a sample rate of 44,100, pretty standard sample rate for recording, bit depth 32, mixed stereo. And I'm just going to call this video so that I know which project it is, so let's go ahead and start. Now what you're going to see on the screen is a whole bunch of audio tracks, and right now we've only got 6. I end up usually using more, so I'm just going to go ahead and add those right off the bat. The reason I use more is that I'm going to be, again, recording with 2 audio tracks, so like I'll have 2 tracks for guitar, 2 tracks for bass, so we're going to go to add tracks, and we're going to add a few more audio tracks, and we're also going to add some bus tracks, which is going to be used for mixing a little bit later. So let's go ahead and add those bus tracks, add some normal tracks, perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to my preferences now. I just turned on my system, my hardware, my API preamp system. So I'm going to be running to preferences and then audio hardware. I currently have 2 interfaces plugged into this computer, one for my PreSonus for everyday use, and then I have my recording one, which is my Audient ID14. So for my default input, I'm going to select Audient ID14, and for my default output, I'm also going to select the analog ID14. And what this will just mean that everything is going in and out, like monitoring and stuff is going out of these systems. I'm going to leave the rest of these the same. The clock, the out, the analog. Latency, I'm going to set to 40. So I'm just going to turn the latency down to 40 milliseconds. And we're going to click OK. And we are ready to record. So to start recording, I'm going to first add a metronome or a click track. Yes, I record to a metronome. Some true bluegrassers may scoff at me, but it is way easier to record one instrument at a time if there's a click track. Doing it without, you get some funky timing things happening sometimes, or stuff isn't lining up. It's just really obnoxious. So I always record to a click track. So today's video we're going to record You Are What I Am, which is a J.D. Crowe tune. And so I'm going to match the metronome to the speed that the song is, and I'm gonna double it because I want the up and the downs. So I've got my headphones on now. Let's just go ahead and give this a listen. You are what I am. Love you forever if I can. Yep, that's close enough. So that's the speed we're gonna do at 228 over 2, which is what, 114 beats per minute. So that's what we're gonna average it out to. And I'm going to just go ahead and turn this up a little bit so I can hear it. So I can currently hear it in these closed headphones that I have for recording. Let's go ahead and set up the input. Track 1, mono, the left mic. Track 1, input 2, the right mic. And we hit little R's here. So now you can see my preamps, my interfaces, they're picking up my audio. Even though the mics are here behind me, it's raising it to, that's what the preamps are going to do. It's going to raise it a little bit. So when we play the instruments, it'll cut it back down. So we're ready to record. I typically record guitar first. Let me go grab my guitar, and we'll record a guitar track. Sound good? So first up is the guitar, and then we're going to be doing basically every instrument after that when it's a session. And I'll show that, of course, on the screen, but let's just go ahead and get started with the little guitar play. I'm watching the gains, and I'm making sure that the volumes are peaking. And ideally, I'll dial this in, I'll get up, make sure it's got a good volume to it. Dial it in where I want the instruments, where I want the mics to point to the instruments. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. 1, 2, 1. So since my Adobe Audition, my audio software is all set up, what I typically do is record. Right now I'm recording with my Canon DSLR camera, as you see in the bottom right corner, and I'm recording the audio at the same time with my Adobe Audition software, and then we're going to be syncing this later. A lot of times I'll just use my iPhone to record the video of me playing all of the instruments, and I'll send them to myself on Google Drive before we add them to the video software. So the next steps are going to be to stack one instrument after another on top of each other while recording with both my camera
whether it's the DSLR or my iPhone, and also tracking inside of the audio software. After guitar, I move on typically to the bass track. After the bass track, I typically do the mandolin track. After mandolin, I do banjo, and that's where everything really comes together. And then if I typically will do like a vocal track after that before doing violin last. The order doesn't really matter. Find one that works for you, but I find that this order works best for me. And once I have all of the tracks in order, in place, it's time to do a little bit of mixing. Now that I've got everything recorded for this demo, I am going to go ahead and show you how I do some mixing. I'm not going to show everything, and all the takes here are not final. So just keep that in mind, but I can at least give you an idea. So first thing first is I'm going to focus on my panning, and a lot of people pan their music differently. It just completely changes on how you want to mix your music. I'm going to do left and a right guitar. I'm going to keep bass in the center. Mandolin, I'm going to do something like this, and then banjo, I'm going to do the other side of it. And then vocal we'll keep in the middle. So now that I've got the panning, what I usually do is go through every single track, and I have some kind of presets that I like to use. I throw in hard limiters, I EQ them a little bit, I'll add a compressor since I'm not using a manual compressor. I've dialed in the mix the way I want it. I'm going to go ahead and now just cut off this me counting at the beginning. Of course, the banjo comes in a little earlier, so we'll leave that there. Now, this is usually where I would spend a few hours dialing things in, going through and listening to the EQ and getting all the settings exactly how I want them. For the sake of this example, and because this is not a finished song, I just did one take of everything basically, I'm just going to show you some final reverb. I'm just going to slap some reverb on it. We're going to pretend it's the final song so we can get to the video editing part. So some true audio experts out there might be annoyed that I'm going to be using the mastering rack effect to just apply some general reverb and some loudness maximizer, but it's because I'm not actually mixing anything. So this will give us an idea. Let's turn peaking off. Now we should be able to listen to it. We slapped a little reverb on there, made things, compressed the audio a little bit for mastering. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, not too bad. I would definitely EQ this more and get it sounding exactly how I want it, but for the sake of this, it's good enough. So let's go ahead and export this MP3 or WAV file. I'm going to just export entire session, and we'll just save it as video in my files. Now we can hop to the video editing software. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to make a new video, and we're just going to call this one test video, or a new project. Then in Premiere Pro, in order to get things started, we are going to make a new sequence. So I'm just going to go to File, New Sequence. In Premiere Pro, this is how you actually kind of make the timeline for you to get started on. And I'm just going to use the 1080, 30 frames per second sequence. If you're making like a TikTok, then I use a different preset for this. I use the vertical preset. If you want higher definition, you can do that too, but this is totally fine for the YouTube and Facebook videos that I do. This is where having multiple monitors is kind of nice because I have my timeline on another monitor, but for the sake of this, we'll slide it back here into view. So step one, once we have our timeline and our sequence set up, I need to go find where I saved that track. Here it is. It's called Video Mixdown. So this is the audio from the video. I'm going to slide it so that it basically starts at 1 second or so. And yes, that is the audio. There you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and just crop off the end. Usually I would do that in the audio software, but there we go. We got a video now that's just totally blank, but at least it's got our audio in there. The next thing I'm going to do is another kind of optional thing that you don't have to do, but I have a frame that I use on almost all of my videos. Now, I call this one Overlay New, and I made this little frame. It is just a bunch of shapes in Photoshop, basically, is all it is. You don't have to do this. You can just, crop your videos in here, but I do this just to make sure I'm cropping my videos correctly. I'm going to make the overlay the length of the song, and then I'm going to slide it up a few tracks here. And what we're doing is making different video tracks. So now you'll see that I have 8 video tracks. and that is for one for each instrument and the vocal and the harmony. I'm going to go ahead and lock the music and go ahead and lock the overlay because I won't need those. So now all I've got to do is drag in my video of me playing and synchronize it to the music. It's not too hard because we're going to basically just be looking for crucial times in this audio track, like this downbeat right here. We're going to be syncing everything to the downbeat. The video of me playing guitar, we'll slide it in here. You'll see, if I zoom out, that I ended up doing 3 takes. This was take 1, where I got about halfway through the song, was like, don't like that. This is take 2, got about 3/4 way through the song, I was like, didn't like that. Maybe I hit a wrong note, maybe I was out of tune. Doesn't really matter. This last one is the final take, so we're going to crop it down to the final take. That's the count right there. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the timeline. And then this is the, this is the bass. Okay, so this is the downbeat right here of the bass starting the first note. We're going to sync that up so that these downbeats line up. We're going to make sure it's at the start. And if I move the timeline here, you'll see there's my bass video of me playing bass. So let's go ahead and play it now with both pieces of audio. I do that just to make sure it looks synchronized, and it looks pretty good. So once I've done that, I'm going to lock this track, delete the bass, and then this, I'm going to just rescale it, fit it into a little frame like that, and then I'm going to use a crop effect. If we go to my effects here, we search crop, there it is. I'm going to drag it onto my timeline, and then in my crop effects, you can see left, right, top, bottom. I need to crop the right so that it fits in this little window. That's it. And then back on my timeline, if we zoom out, I just need to make sure that this video just like slides to the end. And that is it. The bass is done. Let's just pick a random spot in it. Yeah, looks synchronized, looks totally good. Matches what I'm playing. That's what I'm checking for. And I've just got to do this with every instrument now. So let's go ahead. I believe this is the guitar. I slid the guitar over into the timeline. Again, this one I did in, I just did in 1 take, but we got to look for the count, and then the downbeat is right here. So I'm just going to slide it to the downbeat. We just zoom it in here. Again, going to line up the downbeat of the guitar playing at the beginning with this, and let's check and see what it sounds like. Yep, seems right on. We're going to do the same thing, delete that audio. We're going to rescale this video to fit in one of the little squares. Maybe I want the guitar to be a little bigger, so we'll do something like that. Again, I'm going to apply the crop effect, which I can do a few different ways. This is the easiest way, is just to resize it. There's another instrument down. So with this one, there's only 2 more instruments and a vocal to go. So I think I've got everything dialed in. Here's a look at my timeline. Just got to slide these back here to the end. And I don't have a fiddle track, so usually I'd put a fiddle in the bottom right, and I would put a vocal and then harmony vocals here. You know, since I don't have the overlay on this one, what I could do is just remove the overlay like this, and then take this vocal track and make it larger, or like the vocal video, I guess. You know, I could do something like that. So there you go. That is how I make these videos. Let's just go ahead and listen to a little bit of it. And then once I get the video edited like I want it, all the takes lined up, everything looks like it's synchronized and lining up, I just export this video. I go to File, Export Media, and then I just save this as like, let's say, You Are What I Am YouTube, so that I know it's this specific size. I save it just as like a standard Windows Media video. You can do it as an MP4, it doesn't really matter. I click export, bam, it gets into my hard drive, I upload that.
Anyway guys, I hope this video was useful. If it was, make sure you give it a like, and I'll see you real soon here back on the channel with some more music. Take care!